My father started the Oregon Community Foundation after hearing about the San Jose Community Foundation from my aunt, his sister-in-law. She got him all fired up about we ought to have one in Oregon. He put the first money into it. He had a little trust with one of the banks, and he switched it over to the Community Foundation to get him started with $60,000. Well, he had a strong sense of responsibility to people less fortunate.
It's an American history story that is not really in a lot of our textbooks, our history textbooks. And when I grew up, I didn't even really understand about the internment, even though my parents and my grandparents were incarcerated in camp. And they never really talked about it. It was one of those untalked about subjects. So this building is called the Merchant Hotel, and this was once a thriving middle part of Japantown. Japantown ran mostly 2nd, 3rd, 4th Avenues in this area, and so this particular location used to be the laundry, the barbershop, and the bathhouse, and then right next door was the Japanese newspaper. When the evacuation happened, Japantown died at that moment, and all these buildings, all these businesses were empty. Our mission is to educate others about the internment experience of the Japanese Americans during World War II. Unless people know about it, you aren't educated enough to stop it if it were to try to happen again.
The transitional school is a pre-K through 8th grade regular school that is a private nonprofit that educates children in those grades who are in transition, living in motels, don't have any kind of permanent housing. They move from family friend to shelter into these weekly motels. We've had some kids who live in their car a certain amount of time, and some kids who have camped out, and then we just go and pick them up wherever their current pickup spot is. Well, when I think of the Oregon Community Foundation, I think of it as a group of people who, some people maybe have lots and lots of money, and some people have just some money that they want to give it away and share, and it's just a group of people that have come together to pay back and help, give back to the community.
This is Nuevo Amanecer, New Dawning. This is the first project that was built by the Farm Worker Housing Development Corporation in 1994. It's actually the first project that was built in the nation utilizing low-income farm worker tax credits. So it's a national project. It's a symbol for the Latino community and a symbol for the farm worker community. For me personally, I come from a farm worker family, and I worked in farm work, and I've grown up here most of my life. So I take pride in being associated with the Oregon Community Foundation, right? Because they understand that the Latino community, the farmer community, wants to be a part of this society, right? And they understand the contributions that we have made, that my parents have made, that I have made, and so for me, it's really an honor to be affiliated with the Oregon Community Foundation.
Eugene knew for more than two generations that the library had been undersized. The architects told me later the thing that resonated for them was The community wanted a building that would be on the historic register 100 years from now. That was a ambitious, huge pledge by an untried fledgling group, and OCF made the difference to their success.
People really connect along the Greenway. You'll notice that people greet one another, they say hi. OCF was one of the few foundations that didn't back away from a public-government partnership. And I think that's why we're always have been indebted to the OCF for that. Well, I think the fact that foundations go through a very careful process in evaluating the quality of projects before they decide to fund. And they also look for community support before they fund. I think that when they're involved with government in that way, they've really done the vetting process that government should do that are quite opposite from the notion of earmarks.
The early theater was downtown Medford, was in the heart of downtown Medford. It started in the early 1900s and saw it becoming a movie theater for years, and then finally did close down in the 80s. The renovation in the mid-90s has been huge for downtown Medford and has started a snowball effect in the downtown area. The theater first, a new library, new big college buildings. Downtown Medford is coming back to life, and the theater was the first big project to get it started. OCF was one of the early contributors in this project. They stepped up to the plate before many other people had stepped up to the plate and gave it their blessing and gave it their money. They helped to jumpstart the early fundraising to get the theater started. So it was huge. They took a leadership position, and that was important.
75 years ago, it was decided that this was one of the best examples of parkitecture in the National Park Service. That means that this was designed and built to fit in the environment. This particular lodge, if you drive up here, it just feels like it belongs. It feels like it kind of grew up out of the ground. Our goal in doing the model room was to show new modern materials that would need to be used to make it safe and fireproof and yet retain the entire historic texture and the stories that were in the original model, the original rooms. And so their part in that was to help us do the research. They helped us find the right materials and to help us create a room that now the National Historic Trust and the State Historic Preservation Office of Oregon have approved. So now we've been able to move ahead with the full restoration plans. We're pretty remote. We had never had a friends group before. This was a brand new group, and we really didn't have much history. And they said, well, let's give them a vote of confidence. And they gave us that first grant, and our chairman of the board now was the one who delivered the check. I can remember when he drove up with the check. I mean, it was just like we sat there going, we will be able to do this now because we have this grant.
Many foundations are limited, and they are wanting to only do environmental causes, for example, or only doing educational scholarships. Oregon Community Foundation really is looking at the greater good, the whole, and doing what it determines and its donors determine are in the best interest of Oregon.
Well, I think that that's always been a wonderful thing about OCF, because it gives people a chance to put their resources right next to their values and into projects that they support. And when you just give money to a general fund or general cause, turn it over to a board of directors, they may do a lot of good, but I don't think you connect with the passion of the human being.
And so what I see is in these very difficult times when resources are so limited and needs are so profound, that the Oregon Community Foundation is not only here today, they will be here tomorrow to continue on and doing the phenomenal work they're doing.